everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is AJ Edwards, and this is Mr. E's Classroom. So, in my last edition of this series, I talked about the value of teaching history in the secondary classroom. And today I want to take a look at another subject that is very commonly attacked when it comes down to budget reductions or the removal of electives, or any time that schools need to make room for different programs. This is one of the primary subjects that is often targeted, and in my opinion, and the opinion of many, to the detriment of our students. So today I want to talk about the value of art being taught in the secondary school and the elementary school. And today I have a teacher who teaches in the K through 6 classroom, and she has came here to talk about the values and the benefits and what really goes on inside of the art classroom that makes it a valuable subject that our students should be studying, and honestly, they're lucky to be a part of in their academic career. So without further ado, let's take a look and let's sit down and talk with an art teacher and figure out why art class should be included in the classrooms of all students, and what kinds of opportunities actually come out of an education in arts, and why we should maybe reconsider targeting art electives and art programs when it comes down to making room for different subjects or budget cuts. So without further ado, let's roll it. All right, everybody. So I am here today with my friend Mare. Mare is an art teacher, and today she and I are going to be talking about, well, I'm going to be telling her that we need to remove art from the curriculum. Mare is going to convince me otherwise. So Mare, thank you for joining. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. This week has been a little bit crazy, but you know what? There's always a positive to everything, and so far there's going to be a positive going on throughout the rest of this week.
All right,
So, yeah.
that's good. That's really good, man. Yeah, it's always
Mhm.
it's always good to end the week on a positive. And it's always good. Sometimes you have to, go out of your way to find that positive. But
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
all right, Mayor. So I got to ask this: what you reading right now?
So right now, I actually just picked up a couple of some books. I'm actually really interested in reading like visual comics, and one of the comics that I picked up was Gabriel. He goes by Piccolo, and he's done the illustrations for this comic called Teen Titans Beast Boy. So he actually did the illustrations for the Raven version of Teen Titans, and he's also doing the illustrations for the Beast Boy version, written by the same writer of this comic.
Awesome. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's great to see the variety of different texts that are available. You can read a novel, you can
Hmm.
read fiction, nonfiction, and
Yeah.
visual arts. I know what are they called? Manga and graphic novels are becoming a lot more popular in
Hmm.
schools. So
Yeah.
excellent. So Mayor, tell us a little bit about yourself. If you can give a quick 30-second elevator pitch,
Yeah,
um,
sure.
go ahead.
So I was born in a very big town, and fortunately I was in a situation where I was disabled briefly, and the program at the district actually encouraged me to actually speak more, not only through their program itself, but through practicing art. It actually helped me improve in doing better by actually interacting with my peers and interacting with my classmates. And doing that, I was able to become a much better student, not academically, but socially. So throughout like the rest of my career, I've actually joined a lot of clubs and programs that actually influenced me to actually be a part of a community in some way. So I would go to different fundraisers by the robotics team that I joined. I would do a lot of services, or provide a lot of services through myself as a member in the National Art Honor Society. And through those experiences, I'm like thinking to myself, okay, so listen to yourself, listen to yourself. You love art because you've been doing art since you were a child. What can you do with art and the community? And then it just kind of like hit me, oh, I could just be an art teacher. So I went to a local community college, took care of my basic credits, and then once I had all those credits done, I transferred to a 4-year school that had a very great visual arts program, a really great art history program, and art education program all in one school. And I got my bachelor's in 2019 and started teaching during the pandemic. So my first
Welcome to
experience,
education. Here's
yeah,
a pandemic to make your first year a little easier.
yeah, exactly. So every time that the school that I work at is having a moment where like the student needs to be virtual because they're they need to quarantine, I'm okay with that because like I've already like experienced being in a hybrid and virtual setting. I'm okay with that. I'm fine.
Yeah, it's like that's you.
I'm
That's
fine.
kind of like your jam. Your
Yeah,
specialty is
exactly.
visual arts online. So, Mare, today I want to talk to you about why art in school. One thing that I've noticed, and you probably noticed as well, being a lot more having more skin in the game, is
Hmm.
when districts need to cut funding, a lot of programs or courses that get cut is art courses and art electives. So your background is visual art. So
Hmm.
what I want to know as an outsider, so my background, English and history, secondary. You're
Hmm.
also a secondary educator as well, but I rarely made my way to the art section of our schools. I would see the
Hmm.
projects in the hallways. But
Hmm.
my question for you is what exactly is an art class? Can you take me through a really quick synopsis of like 1 year or one semester in
Hmm.
your class? What does that look like?
So in a basic art class, it does look like, oh, you have to learn these different materials, you have to use these materials and apply it into a project that's coming up. And that's usually what most what art classes are. But in reality, what most art classes are, no matter what age or what grade you're teaching, it's always about experimenting your creative process and how you can apply your creative process in certain situations. So not just only the art classroom, but also in other subjects as well. Because if you know the term STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, so it's just like STEM, you don't realize this, but a lot of subjects actually do rely on art a lot. So for example, say that you're designing a robot for a robotics team that you're in. What do you use to draw your designs on paper? Do you use a pencil? How do you do your designs? You draw it and you learn how to draw through art class. How do you put that design into perspective? Use a 3D design program. It has the word design in it. And then after you have the 3D after you have the prototype done, the mechanics and the electricians, they follow that design based on the design that you have designed onto just a piece of paper and a pencil. And another example is there's a lot of history within art itself, but art actually borrows a lot of stuff from history to kind of let the artist create a response towards whatever was happening in that historical event. There are different interpretations of how you work with art. So art is very subjective, so there's no right or wrong way to actually make art. And the way how you can know that is you just go into an art museum and look at their large collection of 100,000 pieces, and you can tell me how art is subjective just based on that.
You're saying that art is not just like a visually aesthetically pleasing thing, but it's also almost like a form of rhetoric or like a text in itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially text except in a visual format. So you don't need to do the reading. You just have to look and see and use your brain to get a connection of what's actually going on in the piece.
Okay. So, Mayor, I will be the first one to tell you my artistic abilities. There's a reason I teach English and history.
Hmm.
If I were to draw a picture, you would think that my 4-year-old had drawn it, and I would be
Hmm.
insulted because my 4-year-old is a much better artist than I am.
Hmm.
So I have no skill in arts. So what's the point of me attending your art class? Like I'm not going to be an artist when I grow up. I'm going to be a
Hmm.
businessman. I'm going to be a doctor or a,
Hmm.
an entrepreneur. Why
Yeah.
should I attend your class?
Well, first and foremost, the very first line that you've ever drawn on a piece of paper when you were probably a toddler, that counts as a drawing. So no matter what line you have made on your paper, it still counts as art. But like I said earlier, what matters the most in art classes is having multiple opportunities to explore your creative thinking and how you can creatively think in tough situations, just like how you explore your creative thinking in English. So there are some people that do explore their creative thinking different ways, but it's also very important for schools and for people to have multiple opportunities to actually explore that creative thinking in some way. So critical thinking, you're thinking straight, like seriously about the problem, how to fix it, but creative thinking comes in on how you can pull all your ideas together to make that problem disappear. And it's very, very important to always explore that part about yourself. And not only that, but if there's ever a moment where you feel like you're lost in your life, like mentally, art is the perfect place to actually do that. And it doesn't have to be just drawing. It can be working with clay, working with paint. I actually have this piece right here that is just me making a mistake on the pottery wheel. And does it look perfect? No, but I love it because I think it looks really cool. And I'm using it for a different purpose right now rather than what it's supposed to be for.
Mm.
So, what really matters the most with art is that, yes, you are going to be making mistakes, but it's the perfect opportunity to learn from those mistakes just by looking at it. So, don't feel shame when you make a mistake. Actually, take the opportunity to look at what mistake you've had so you can apply it to the next project that you plan on working on. And also, more importantly, always experiment and practice creative thinking skills, especially in an art classroom, no matter what material you work with.
And I love what you just said at the end, because that reminds me of like a huge lesson that I think that all, not just teachers, but all adults, parents, aunts,
Mhm.
uncles, but anyone who is in direct contact with kids, or even like young adults and college students, it's a huge skill that I feel that we need to teach everyone, which is to embrace mistakes and utilize mistakes not as a moment of failure, but as an opportunity to approach something differently. What I
Yeah,
always tell my students is that high school is a safe place to fail, but not a safe place to become a failure. And what I mean by that is not every essay is going to be perfect. Not every math test is going to be perfect. The ACT score might not be as high as you want it. But in high school, it's a safe place to make those mistakes, because you should, I'm not criticizing any other teachers, but ideally, you should have the ability to rectify that mistake
yeah,
and take a mistake as an opportunity to learn how to do it differently, and be, to throw out that educational buzzword, metacognitive, right?
yeah, yeah.
Think about your thinking, think about the process, and then
Mm.
use it to redirect your approach to hopefully find success. And that transfers into the career in college world that you learn in high school, in your early adolescence. And it sounds like it's what you learn in your classroom, which is awesome.
Yeah, I really love that comment or that response you made in response to my answer because it actually reminds me of a book called Beautiful Oops. And
Okay.
it's essentially a child's storybook on how you make a mistake, like you make a coffee stain on the table or you make a rip on a paper, and you just kind of work along with how you can make that mistake into something even better than ripping a piece of paper or making a stain on a piece of paper. Someone makes a rip on the side of the paper, and so what they do with that rip is that they make it into like the mouth of an alligator to kind of make to kind of use that rip as like the mouth.
So you show me your favorite piece. So again, I'm not an artistic person, but
Hmm.
this is something that I got when I was teaching in the States from a
Hmm.
student whom I love dearly, and she is currently doing amazing things in college. And I want her to know, if she's watching, that you are still loved, kiddo. And I will always call
Hmm.
you kiddo. I don't care that you're almost 20 years old. But a going away gift that I got, probably the coolest thing I ever got from one of my students, is and to preface this, I'm a huge Supernatural fan, huge
Hmm.
supernatural nerd. Like Sam and Dean, Crowley. I'm huge. So anyway,
Hmm.
I had a student a few years ago who was just as big a fan as I am, and I will never forget this moment. But she's like, "I got you something as like a end of the year present," and she made this
Oh
caricature of
my
me,
gosh.
kind of like Sam Winchester. I got the demon blade, but
Hmm.
this is something that I brought with me to Japan from the United States, and I'm going to have it with me wherever I go.
Hmm.
And but she utilized her skills and her passion to make something that honestly is one of the most amazing things I've ever gotten. And
Hmm.
I've gotten a lot of great things from students. A lot of it has been more just like conversations that I'll cherish.
Hmm.
But that's something that I love, and it's yeah, it's the value that
Hmm.
comes from that piece of art that in my life is going to be timeless. So
Hmm. I actually do count as fan art and like anime as its own version of art. I actually encourage my students to actually draw anime in their sketchbooks. And I
mhm.
encourage them to actually bring their sketchbooks into the classroom because to me, this is their version of experiencing art. And I
Mhm.
want them to take that experience as much as they can and try to relate it to how they can apply it into the classroom. I
Okay.
actually have this one student of mine, um, like on the first week, I told everyone that I liked anime because like one of my kids had their sketchbook out and like, oh, it looks like this character from this show. And then my kids are like going, you watch anime? What? And one of my students overheard me, and so they actually made fan art of two of my favorite characters of a show that I was watching. I love how anime is being such a huge influence to younger kids because one, they're actually exploring like different materials to actually apply into their own interests and hopefully kind of create their own style based on just experimenting with different styles of anime.
So I got to ask you again. I'm not quite sold. My value is literature and history.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm never going to draw. And my background too, for those who don't know, was performing arts. I love theater.
Mm-hmm.
Used to sing in a band. If I can put some old videos of me singing in my metal band, I might put them on my
Mm-hmm.
channel someday. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
convince me in 2 minutes to not cut art.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I keep art in our school when I can easily keep, business or
Mm-hmm.
engineering? Like, why is art important enough that it should not be the first thought to come to mind when doing a budget cut for the school year?
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, I really do appreciate you telling me that you have a background in English because one thing that English classes and other classes lack in is that art provides them a way to actually meditate and provides like a safe space for them to help meditate through a very long stressful week and a
Mhm.
long stressful month. And what really matters the most to kids is that, well, first of all, it's always encouraged for every elementary school to have art in their classes. But what is also really important is that give students the opportunity to actually explore art as they get older, but also be given opportunities to actually challenge themselves on how they can use this material in a more advanced setting. So that's what I actually like about working with secondary education is that they know the basics already, but it's just a matter of challenging them on how they know that how they know those basics.
So,
And
what- so,
in
what- so, so what you're
yeah,
saying there is, and this is just me jumping to like a business mindset, or
yeah.
like the real jobs that'll get you
Hmm.
real money as opposed to the humanities and the visuals, is you're learning how to take the minimal amount of materials available,
Hmm.
think about how to use that limited available resources to create something unique, original, and successful.
Hmm. That's right. And
Huh.
not only that, but art gives you an opportunity to appreciate history in a different way. So
Okay.
there are a lot of students who actually learn in different ways. There's visual learners, there's auditory learners, there's kinesthetic learners. And there's a lot of students who don't meet there
That's
are a
me.
lot of
That's me right
students
there.
who there are a lot of students who don't really learn much when they're just sitting down and listening to a lecture. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And the only way that a student can actually learn to appreciate history is to actually do a lesson or do a project based on a historical and classic artwork. Because what makes art history very beautiful is that the history of art is essentially just a like multiple centuries long's worth of rebellion of like the traditional works or the traditional meanings of artwork. Like literally, art used to be just artists being paid by rich people to make portraits of them and make them look prettier than how they look in real life. And then someone's a century later will be like, well, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I just want to not use people as subjects. And then someone else will pop in and be like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to use other things as subjects. Maybe I want to use them as subjects, but use unrealistic colors. And then someone will just pop in and be like, all this sucks. Okay. I'm just going to create my own parody of this. Okay. I'll just call it that and we're all good. and then, and then like later on, some artists will just jump in and be like, I wonder if I can make the Campbell's soup can an artwork. And I wonder how I can make the edges as neat as possible. Let's see if I can do that.
Yeah.
But again, what's great about art history is we can have the chance to actually embrace the history just by actually doing the work or working with the techniques that these artists have worked in back in the day.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think transferring that into, say, the medical field, like, I mean, we have so many different people who are pioneering new ways to improve upon a system that's already been created, different ways of doing heart surgery, how to utilize a machine, AI, as opposed to, a surgeon's hands. And that all comes from, like you said, that desire to not do it the old-fashioned way, or that desire to find different ways to improve upon a skill. And I think what I'm getting as a non-artist is that the value of focusing on the history of art and the changes of art and the skills that are incorporated into different art forms is that just knowing one way allows you the freedom to think of a better way to improve upon it. And then if you look at how that transfers into any career, it gives you that ability to appreciate that the pioneering members always started where you are, and that you can also look for different ways to improve upon something based on creativity and critical thinking and the lack of fear because you've made mistakes in Mare's art class, the lack of fear of making those mistakes to better improve upon the systems in place. No, you got me there. I think what people tend to do, especially when they think of the humanities and they think of arts and music and physical education, I think people they're too literal when they think about, art is sitting there with an easel, staring at a half naked person, drawing that, or like the basket of fruits and painting that. But what you're saying is that art allows you to experiment with your own creativity and your own critical thinking and your own abstract thinking as well, so that you're able to approach things from different perspectives while maintaining like a clear impression of your own understanding of what's already there.
That's right. And one more thing I did forget to mention is something that I'm actually doing right now with my students as we speak. The older kids are actually learning different types of art from different cultures around the world.
Okay.
So right now, my fifth graders are doing Egyptian art by creating their own Egyptian cartouches, and the sixth graders are going to be doing Chinese art by making black ink paintings of landscapes. And what the sixth graders do, because I want to focus on them real quick, what they do is that they have to think like those Chinese artists and prepare like those Chinese artists before they actually do those paintings, because those artists actually make those paintings based on what's in their head alone. None of it's based on real life. And all they do is they study those brush techniques to make those images come to life. And the more they clear their minds through meditation before or during their painting, the more detailed their work is going to be and the more focus they have with each stroke. Students also have an opportunity to explore different cultures and how they view art, because that gives them an opportunity to actually kind of like take a tour around the world, get a feeling of like what each country and each culture is like, but also more importantly, take an opportunity to dive into their own culture, see what kind of art that they do, and see if they can try and practice it and kind of have a little bit of some appreciation for their own culture as well.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think, and that's the important thing, I think, of an education is the world is very global. I mean, like here I am, I'm an American living in Japan, teaching at an international school in which our students come from many walks of lives. Here you are teaching in a multinational, multi-ethnic area in the United States. But the idea is that a lot of our students in the future will have some kind of a connection to a different culture, whether it's through a spouse, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or a partner, whether it's through a place of employment. When we lived in America, my wife worked for a Japanese company in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. And there was that multicultural connection that we're almost inevitably going to face, and giving students the ability to empathize, identify with, and better encourage curiosity to learn more about these cultures, I think, is huge in a society that's going more and more global. So I love it. So Mare, if I were advising a student, so this is more for like guidance counselors or parents, what kind of classes are available for kids? And I know obviously it differs by district, but
Hmm.
in general, what courses would be available if I wanted to send students to an art elective? What could they find in that world?
So at the high school that I went to, we did have like some basic art classes that did help us explore like the basics of materials like printmaking, drawing, and painting and ceramics. But outside of that, we did offer classes strictly for photography, for graphic design, graphic arts, and I believe at some point 3D printing as well.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and other schools that rivaled with us, they had all that, but they also had metalsmithing, they had jewelry making, they had they also had ceramics as well. So like sometimes whenever like a school kind of one upped us in some way, whenever it came to sports or the art classes, we were going to be rivals eventually. And again, like if your school has like a graphic design or a maker space, like take full advantage on that as well, because like they do follow the creative thinking and path of that is like art. So it's really important to apply that, especially if you have a background with technology, so that gives you an opportunity to explore your habits or your hobbies, and just kind of like see how art kind of puts your hobby and art together, and kind of see like you make something from the 3D printer, from the laser cutter. You can do like a 3D design, that kind of stuff.
So, and I think one thing too that I've experienced in my career. So, if this is for parents or kids who are watching this, or even teachers who know of a student who likes something, have the students take that leadership and have them approach the teachers,
Yes.
have them approach the administrator and say, "Hey, listen,
Hmm.
I really like manga. I really like anime.
Hmm.
Let's create and ask your teachers, because I guarantee there is one teacher like Mare, like myself, who have a common interest with you.
Hmm.
Ask administrators and teachers if you can create a club at your school. It doesn't necessarily have to be a class for a grade,
Hmm.
but if you love something and you want to share that with somebody, I love literacy and teaching and education. So I created a YouTube channel that has
Hmm.
131 subscribers, moving on up.
132. Don't worry, I got
132.
you. I got
But
you.
if you love anime and manga and you want to meet like-minded individuals who also like to draw anime and manga, find a faculty, what's the word, faculty advisor or a sponsor, and create a club. That's one of my
Hmm.
favorite things about school is the different variety of clubs that you can join. I hosted book club, of course, when I was
Hmm.
teaching. I also did. My neighbor was like board game club, and I'd go and play
Hmm.
D&D with the kids, play a little chess with the kids. But if you are a student or a parent of a student who loves something that is not at your school, find a way to make it happen.
Hmm.
Not only will that give you the opportunity to meet fellow like-minded students who are like you, who love anime, who love, photography, who love filmmaking, right? I mean,
Hmm.
like, I know Mare and I have been talking a lot more about like visual, like painting and ceramics, but
Hmm.
making videos is art. Making music is art. Performing arts, art is it's one umbrella of beautiful creativity. Meet people who have the same interests as you, and also think about, a little wink wink to those that are going to school, college applications, to say that you created and funded a club, you're the founding member of a club. That's a huge achievement to make. It's great on an application, it's great on a resume, but most importantly, it's a great way for you to really make an impact on your school and truly take your experience and make it something that you own your
Hmm.
education by creating something beautiful that everyone can enjoy. And I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I'm a huge advocate for, if it's not there, make it there. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, and and
Hmm.
and, and students or parents, there's one teacher. I guarantee you, there is one teacher. We all have our own diverse interests. Yes, I teach English and history. I
Hmm.
sang in a metal band. If you want to go and create like a metal club where we play As Lay Dying and we spend the day headbanging from 3:30 to 4:30, I'm your
Hmm.
guy. So you will find a teacher, who is passionate about something that you're passionate about, or is passionate about supporting their kids. It's there.
Mhm.
You can find it.
One more thing that I forgot to mention to you is I didn't get to show you my favorite artwork because I got a little bit too passionate right there
No, I
earlier.
got you. Actually, I was going to ask you, is there
Yeah.
anything that you think, if there's like one piece of art that everyone should experience, what does it go?
So that piece I actually showed you in one of my answers to your question
Okay.
is actually my second favorite.
Okay.
But my absolute favorite is this vessel that I made back in college. And it's actually a porcelain bowl that my professor dropped on the floor. I actually decided to put this piece up on display for one of the exhibitions in our campus. And this was actually what I named my piece. It's backwards, but it says that
mistakes can work.
And then this
Lovely.
is the description card that I wrote down for it. So do you mind if I read it out loud for you?
Yeah, by all means.
All right. So after a demonstration on the pottery wheel, my professor dropped this vessel onto the floor. I really liked the results, so I volunteered to make a lid for it. Quote unquote, he asked if anyone wanted to make a lid for it, and I said, yes, I'll do it. Fist fired and expecting a matte blue-green glaze. It was put into the wrong kiln and came out a grayish purple instead. I was upset that it didn't come out how I expected, but compliment after compliment changed my opinion. It became my own mistake that I learned from and loved. Every so often, when I have a bad day because of some mishap, whatever it might be, I take a moment to look at this jar and smile. When teaching for the first time, there's bound to be one or even more mistakes waiting to happen, but don't let it get to you. Learn from it or learn to accept it. Eventually, you'll grow as a teacher to develop better lessons. And ironically, I'm having stress 24/7 to the point where I am not able to go to sleep at certain times of the night. But I am improving because I look at this jar.
That's all you need, man. That's all you need.
It's all you need, yeah.
My analytical mind just like looks at the idea of like how, even though it's an imperfection, it's perfect in someone's eyes, and that just kind of reflects on our own students and on our own relationships and our own existence.
What makes these pieces very special to me is that for a majority of my life, I did make a lot of mistakes, but I didn't acknowledge it when I made those mistakes. But because of these two pieces that I made, I was actually able to take the opportunity to experience these mistakes because these are mistakes that are happening right before my eyes.
Yeah.
And although some people actually liked how it came out, I actually learned to like it because of what everyone liked from what they saw.
Perfect. And I think, and the value, so your own personal lesson, if we can imagine that lesson impacting 25 students per period, 5 periods per day over the span of a 25-year career, I mean, just imagine how much better the world is with that life experience through the experiences they have in an art classroom that you might not always get anywhere else. And that's, I think, why the arts should be something that is not just encouraged to be studied, but celebrated at every school. So, Mare, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate this talk. And again, my art skills are very, very limited, but I can scream, play guitar, drums, and bass, and headbang like a boss. However, the the lessons that you are encouraging and that you are highlighting that happen in your visual arts class, I think is something that I would have benefited greatly as a high school student, and even now as a soon to be 32-year-old man. You know, I would cherish those experiences in my life. So thank you. So Mare, before we go, how can we get a hold of you? Or is there any specific organization or anything you want to give a quick shout out to help spread the word before
Mhm.
we end for the day?
So I do have a couple of some books that I would like to share. This is actually for any people who are looking into becoming an art teacher. There are a
Okay,
couple of some books that I do recommend.
perfect.
So
Perfect.
one book is called Yardsticks Children's Classroom Ages 4 to 14. And this book is actually really great for teachers who are trying to get an understanding of how each grade behaves or performs in different subjects.
Love it.
And this
Love
is actually a book called In the Spirit of the Studio. And this book is actually dedicated to an entirely different like approach to how to teach art. As you can see, I actually have like some little tabs right here so I can like make note of those experiences. And they use something called the Reggio Emilia approach, where they actually have the students take over the classroom. They have
Huh.
the students design the project. So it's a very collaborative environment, but rather than having the teachers do all the talking, they give the students the opportunity to actually be the boss of their own project.
Excellent. All right. Well,
Mhm.
no, well, hey, thank you again for joining, and I really enjoyed our conversation. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much.
All right. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. That was a really wonderful conversation to have with Mare. I learned a lot of different things that I really never thought were being taught within an art classroom. And I have a really good perspective of how to look at it from a broad outsider's view that really helps me see the benefit of art within the K through 12 classroom. As always, if you guys enjoyed what you watched, please like the video, leave a comment, let us know your thoughts about the benefits or any questions you might have for Mare about art education in the classroom. I'm from a secondary perspective. Mare is actually from a K through 6 perspective. Either way, the idea is that the skills and the perspectives and the trains of thought that are being encouraged and the creativity and the diverse approaches to problem solving and making something new, it's transferable from the K through the 12 and into the college world. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Otherwise, if you haven't already, please subscribe. And thank you for tuning into my channel. And as always, make it a great day.